In this video, we finally have a Nissan Cube, one of the most stylish MPVs I think has ever been made. But actually, this isn't a Nissan Cube. If we step around to the side, we will see this is actually the slightly longer Nissan Cubic. So it's a full 7-seater on the extended wheelbase. But yeah, I've been wanting to feature one of these for a very long time because they do look so iconic, because the mechanical package is quite interesting, and well, you just look at its cute little face. Now, something a lot of people don't realise is this is actually a second generation Cube. There was a first generation, as can be seen here, which has rather plain styling. There are very, very few of those in the UK. But this second generation, with its sort of cute front, the asymmetric rear door, and just generally the cutie styling, became very popular here as a Japanese export. They were never sold here originally in this form, so like so many, this one is an import. This one dates from 2008. But it so inspired Nissan that they launched a third generation with slightly more blobby styling, and that did go on sale in Europe and America, where it didn't sell very well. But nonetheless, we shall ignore that and start looking at the mechanical package. So when this second generation came out, the engine options were the 1.4 litre, or that was it. You only had the 1.4 litre, but you did have a choice of gearboxes. You could have a fully automatic or a CVT. Nissan being fairly unusual in offering those as a pair of options. Now people say run a mile from the CVT. I don't think that's necessarily the case. This one is CVT, but this has the later HR15DE twin cam engine. And I think these are a little bit more robust. Those 1.4s are known for timing chain issues. Drivetrain wise, it wasn't just the gearbox that was fairly clever on these. Some of them can be specified with electric 4-wheel drive. So there was a motor to operate the rear wheels as you needed them, as a little bit of a boost system, which I think is a marvellous idea. But apparently it wasn't a commercial success, and such technology seems to have been dropped. But effectively, this is a Nissan Micra running gear under the skin, and probably all the better for it. Nice and reliable. So the doors open nice and large for a start, and I hop aboard, and so plastic in here. There's an awful lot of it, but nice upright dashboard, basic heater controls as you'd expect, column gear change, which just makes things a bit more practical. There is storage all over the place, so if the storage in the center armrest isn't sufficient, there is more down here as well. And then there's a little cargo net here. There's a glove box there, which is a little on the shallow side, perhaps because there's an airbag behind it. Oh, there's another glove box. We've got two glove boxes, and that one opens nice and wide. There are little storage bins in the door pocket, but as a Berlingo owner, they are hugely inferior. And no storage above the head either, despite an almost comical amount of headroom. But it just makes it feel very nice and spacious in here. It's really nice driving position, and I think these seats do fold down into a sort of bed if you so wish. So in some ways it reminds me of my old Honda SMX, and in fact, while I edited Retro Japanese magazine, I did compare one of these with my SMX and was forced to conclude that I think the Nissan does things better. For a start, the Cube has a door on both sides in the back. That makes things more interesting. But, oh, it's a bit tight in here, but I think... Oh, there we go. I can actually move my seat rearward. They do so individually, and you get a bit more space. But close the door, got the privacy tint, and it feels nice and private here. So this being a Cubic, it has actually got another row of seats. But it has to be said, these seats are only suitable for people who don't have legs. It is a little on the tight side. Oh yeah, you'd fit a retreat here. But again, I've got a window one side, but because of the asymmetric styling, we've got a little cargo net area here. And another thing I wanted to show you is there are head restraints here. And when you're folding the seats, there's a little area to put them at the side. But of course, there is no boot space at all. We are up against the rear window. We are in the crumple zone. So I think as a full 7-seater, I think the Cubic is probably pushing it a bit. So this seat perhaps doesn't really add that much practicality, but that's okay because you can make it go away quite easily, and it folds down and becomes the boot floor. So now you've got a good size load area here in the back, and of course the middle seat will tumble out of the way and fold down as well. And then I think we probably have to take the head restraint off, and then I think, oh, and does that go in there? Oh, it looks like it should. It doesn't quite seem to fit, but maybe it does. And then that goes down there. I've got to move this one back a bit. There we go. There we go. So now you've got the flat space all the way through. So yeah, compared to my SMX, this is a million times more practical. I'm not sure it's quite up to Berlingo levels of space in the back, but still pretty practical and multi-purpose, which is rather the point. So yeah, pretty much nondescript 4-cylinder engine noises, but yeah, I do love a column gear change. They make so much sense. And oh, I've got the handbrake on, parking brake rather. It's foot operated, same as Nissan Leaf. So there we go. And now we can ease off. So yeah, first time driving one of these with a 1.5 CVT. The other one I drove was a 1.4 full automatic. So it's going to be interesting to see how this compares. I mean, if you've watched this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm a big fan of a CVT. I just really like them. But we're here at Torque Moto Cafe, and an interesting mix of cars here as well. And there's some very delicious food. The hot dogs are amazing.
I believe that they also driven channel here yesterday.
Oh, were they indeed? Jim and Sean. Well, sad to miss you guys. So yeah, the Cube is one of those cars, you just don't really know why they didn't try to sell it in Europe. Japanese requirements different? Did it not meet specs? I don't know. But it surely would have been a popular car here. Although I say surely, maybe it's one of those cars that only makes sense on the used market, which isn't much use to manufacturers. But yeah, the third generation, which they did try to sell elsewhere, I think the problem is they rather lost control of the looks. They ended up looking a bit frumpy, I think. They didn't have the grace of these earlier ones. And I don't wish to belittle this one, but I think the earliest second gens are the best looking. That could be fighting talk. In fact, there are 2 third generation Cubes just sat in a car park over there. Yeah, 3 of them. But these are odd cars to scale, I think, because you look at them and you think they're quite small, but they're actually quite large. We've got indicators right because we are JDM yo. And that's not my exhaust, that's the motorbikes behind. So as I accelerate away, the revs drop down to 2000, and it's all, apart from the motorcycles, quite peaceful. We may find a spot to let them pass. Oh, they're going anyway. Yep, that certainly looks like 40 miles an hour, and that number plate doesn't look illegal at all. Wait for his friend to go. Oh, nice bum crack, sir. But yeah, they're very peaceful to drive. You can barely hear the engine at all. So I'm having to keep an eye on the rev counter just to see what the engine is doing, and just bimbling along here, it's sort of doing 1500, 2000 revs, and because it's a CVT, it will try and hold the engine speed regardless of road speed. You've effectively got 2 cone pulleys and a steel belt on these transmissions, so you've got almost an infinite range of gears. Well, up to a point. There are extremes either end, but in between that, the ratios change almost continuously. There's a sport mode, which I imagine makes things a bit revier, but yeah, the road manners, they're just nice. But Nissan really had a thing for CVTs at this time. You can see a previous test of mine where I drove a Nissan La Festa. That was another Japanese market MPV we didn't see here. So yeah, when you put your foot down, the revs go up. But it kind of feels like you've got a slipping clutch, because it's not the same as just dropping down a gear. It's most peculiar. So I think you need to learn to drive a CVT. If you keep putting your foot down all the time, it sounds horrible. Much as it did when I had a horrendous taxi ride through Sydney on arrival there. The worst driving I've ever seen in my life. What are these bikes doing now? What a bunch of muppets.
By the way, I'm taking that being the worst driver you've ever seen as a compliment, as we spend a lot of time with me driving.
Yeah, oh, you got nothing. I mean, this bloke was driving a hybrid Prius and he was just flooring it everywhere. So the revs were just going "Rah!" screaming away. I thought, this is not doing anything for the environment. But in terms of road manners, the way it feels, I think it's a lot better than the Honda SMX. The Honda SMX just has power steering, but it's far too light. And you never have a moment's confidence in it going around a bend. This just feels a bit more planted. I wouldn't say it's got feedback, because it hasn't. Oh, we're doing wheelies now, are we? Yeah, brilliant. Well done. I'm sure your mummy's very proud. Yeah, very odd driving experience where the revs really have no relation to how you go down the road. But if we put it in sport mode, I don't know what... Oh, we get engine braking then. So that holds the revs much higher if you're in sport mode. That's not very peaceful, is it? Let's not have it in sport mode. But apparently, because there's electronic control of the pulleys as well as purely mechanical, so something like the DAF system, it's just weighted springs in the pulleys, and similar in my Invacar, but change the gear ratio. This has electric control, so they can do things like that. They can put a sport mode in to hold the revs up more. They can have it so as you go down a hill, it'll give you actual engine braking. It'll sort of force a downshift on the transmission, so put it in a better ratio for engine braking. So there's an awful lot going on, and I think Nissan did a great job with these CVTs. And in a way, it kind of makes them the best automatic, because there is no shifting. So you haven't got physical gears, because even good automatics, you'll still tend to feel the revs change all the time. They're always getting the engine into its peak torque or power and then out of it again. Whereas this has the potential to just keep it in there. Oh, Series 2 Land Rover, lovely. Well, this one's got, I don't know if that's the factory one or not, but it does link up to a reversing camera. So when I'm in reverse, you get a little screen showing you what's behind you, which is quite a nice little detail, quite useful in an MPV. Has it got a creep, I wonder? Oh yes, there is an element of creep. There we go. So you can keep the revs that low, and we are gently accelerating up to 30 miles an hour, and we haven't gone above 1600 revs. There is an element with these cars of the Japanese always seeming to keep the best stuff for themselves. It's like, oh yeah, we'll make what you want in your export markets, but we'll have more fun at home. I think this is a prime example. At 60, isn't that strange how the revs just don't match what's going on with the road wheels at all? So we're accelerating, the revs are actually coming down as the gearing settles down. But yeah, we're doing indicated 70 miles an hour now at just under 2,500 revs, so that's very relaxing. There's a bit of road noise, a little bit of wind noise, but still exceedingly peaceful, especially after you've driven a very noisy little Sprigget. But what I really love is you can feel how different this is to the Berlingo. The Berlingo feels very, very French, even though it's built in Spain. It feels like a French developed car. You can just feel everything the French love about a car, whereas this just feels so very, very Japanese, unapologetically Japanese. And I like that. But yeah, these make such sense as daily transport, really. Well, obviously you don't get a diesel option. They were all petrol. Right, I'm going to put it in sport mode and we'll see how that affects the acceleration going back down the dual carriageway. Well, I can't say it makes it notably quicker. It does make it notably louder. And it's holding the revs at 4,500 revs, so peace and quiet is restored. So one thing I'm noticing is the revs vary a lot as you adjust your throttle position. So for gradient, if you just feel you need a bit more space to complete an overtake, so that would take some getting used to. But yeah, generally these are just really nice to drive. They haven't got the ride comfort of a French car, but on smoother roads like this, they're absolutely fine. So there we go, that was the Nissan Cube. Always a pleasure. They're a great car, they've got so much to offer. But yeah, very enjoyable drive. Just kind of easy, which is what you want in a family vehicle. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the Hubnut store if you wish to buy finery. I shall see you in a future video. Farewell.